This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the Bottom Feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to go over some rookie mistakes you'll make out there if you're new to the pool business. And if you're not new to the pool business, you're also going to make some of these mistakes. And of course, you can learn from them, but it's always wiser not to learn from your own mistakes, but to learn from the mistakes of others. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy Coaching Program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support. For me, I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. I'll start by saying I've probably made every single mistake out there that I'm going to talk about. There's nothing I'm talking about here that I haven't done personally. And I'll start with one that I think a lot of us make out there. Well, I'll start with two. They kind of go hand in hand. One is underbidding a service account, and two, kind of in the similar vein, is taking on a service account you should have passed on. And this happens to all of us. There was one member of my group that highlights this, and I'll use this example. I've used it before a long time ago. He was at a pool. It was about 25,000 gallons. It had a bunch of trees around it. Red flag number one, the other pool service company disappeared and ghosted the customer. Customer was complaining about how they couldn't get a hold of him anymore. Red flag number two, all the debris around the pool and the amount of time it would take to maintain this pool each week. And red flag number three, this pool was pretty large and the person doing it prior was doing it at a very low rate. All of these came into play, and of course, when he bid on it, he bid a little bit higher than the other service company, the going rate in the area. And after he finished bidding, he left the account. They agreed to start service that week. And he left the account, and right away he's like, man, I should not have even bid on this pool. I don't know why I did this. Now what do I do? Do I go back and tell the customer, call him saying, I made a mistake. I don't want your pool anymore, because then they're going to leave me a bad review, because the customer was already a little bit kind of on that rough edge kind of personality where I feel like they're going to be a problem. I don't know why I did this, why I took this account. He was just talking himself through his mistake. And it happens to everybody. Ultimately, he just told the customer and kind of bit the bullet and said, oh, you know what? I did bid on your pool, but I just realized that I'm quite overbooked and I shouldn't have bid on it. I apologize. And you may want to call someone else. He kind of backed out of it, got out of it pretty good. He used really, polite language and fell on the sword kind of thing. It was his mistake. And they didn't leave a bad review, fortunately. But yeah, bidding on a pool or bidding too low, they kind of go hand in hand sometimes. And there are certain pools that you just don't want on your route. Now, when you're starting out, I got to say, you're taking a lot of pools that people would pass on. But in a way, there is a limit, and there is something that you have to get compensated for, especially a heavy debris pool like this. So don't undercut yourself either just starting out. And yes, maybe stretch yourself a little bit and take on these pools that most other companies would pass on because they're, quote, problem pools, but you have to build your route anyway, and taking every account is kind of a smart business practice, but make sure you're not underbidding at least. You can take on some of these pools, but if you are a veteran, like he was a veteran, he wasn't someone who just started out in the business. This story is from someone who's been doing it for a long time. You make these mistakes. You maybe have a moment of weak judgment. You're thinking about something else. You're not paying full attention, and you make the bid. And this happens to everyone. And so just keep that in mind that you can back out of it if you find yourself in the situation, but you're going to, of course, make this common mistake. Another common mistake is adding water to the customer's pool for them. Now, this is one of the biggest liability claims out there. Adding water, forgetting to turn off the hose, flooding the house, flooding the yard, believe it or not, is one of the biggest liability claims for general liability insurance. And by the way, you should have general liability insurance that will cover you for incidents up to $1 million. If you want a really affordable insurance, I've partnered with UPA, United Pool Association, and their insurance is the lowest in the industry. Just email me at david@swimmingpoollearning, and I'll get you the Google form so you can sign up for the UPA insurance. I can guarantee you're not going to find a less expensive policy with the same coverage that you get from a more expensive policy, the $1 million per incident, and all the other things that are in there that will protect you in the case that something goes wrong and you have a liability claim. Of course, avoiding liability claims is the way to do it. You don't want to do something that's going to cause liability. So you want to make sure that you have a service agreement. You can email me for that as well. I have a one-page service agreement I can share with you. And in there it tells the customer that they're responsible for filling the pool, and you will not do that because you are going to forget. You may leave your car keys there. I used to do this, and I still on occasion will fill a vacant home if it's I did this for many years when I did repos. I don't think that's going to happen in this era, but back in 2009, 10, and 11, there were a lot of bank-owned homes, and I was maintaining them, and I was filling them up for the bank and make sure that the water was level was fine. And I always would leave my truck keys there. But there's going to be a time when you go out to your truck for something and you're going to take your keys and forget to put them back on the fill line, and then you're going to overflow the pool and flood the house. So don't even do that. I don't think that's even a good idea. If I get to a pool and the water's really low, I'll actually just turn the system off, and then I'll text the customer saying, I was servicing your pool today. I noticed the water was half an inch below the skimmer, and I turned the system off because it could cause damage to the equipment. When you get back home, can you fill up the pool? And, if it's something they have to turn back on, let them turn it back on. If you put it in service mode, let them know how to get out of service mode. If it's an automatic timer, don't worry about it. It'll come back on the next day. But make sure they fill the pool up and you're not the one filling it up, because chances are you're going to overfill the pool at one point. You're going to forget your keys, and then you're going to be in a world of hurt with a big liability claim. So a rookie mistake is trying to be kind of a people pleaser, doing too much, and filling up the pool for the customer, taking on something that's going to cause a lot of liability. I would not advise doing it, so don't do that. Along that same vein here about liability, I really find that parking in the customer's driveway is a bad idea if you can avoid it. Now, of course, some areas of Los Angeles, there's no street parking. You have to park in the driveway. That's the case sometimes in my area as well. There's just no way to park on the street. Sometimes the house is really up on a really steep driveway and you have to pull in, and it's a long way from the street. I understand that. Those are kind of exceptions. But you want to make sure you don't park on the driveway unless you have to, because there is some liability with you spilling something on their driveway versus spilling it on the black asphalt in front. Not a big deal. If you spill it on their driveway, they're going to notice it, and that creates some liability issues. This has happened to a lot of pool guys as well, pool gals and guys out there, that something dripped. Acid was not maybe secured in the container too well, and it dripped onto their driveway and left a stain, or some other chemicals spilled onto their driveway. So avoid that, or even leaking oil on their driveway. You don't want any of that. You don't want to be responsible for that. So try to park in the street as much as you can when you can do that. One of my members was backing into a driveway. I don't recommend that either. And his pole was sticking out of the back of his truck, and it actually punctured one of the panels on the garage door. And he's one of the members of my coaching group, and he texts me, he's like, hey, I backed my truck into this garage and I broke a panel. What do I do? And I told him, oh man, that's really unfortunate, because you can't really find those panels, or they don't really do that with those garages here. There's no way to actually replace one panel, and you have to get the whole new garage door. And, he was like, oh, you're kidding me. And he's like, and so the customer, of course, was not happy that he punctured and dented his garage door, and true. You just can't replace one section, one little panel. Very hard to find one that matches. A lot of the manufacturers change the look of everything all the time so that you can't repair them. This is from a garage company, by the way. They're telling me that there's some specific things that they do so that you have to replace the entire door, and most people have to replace the entire door in that case, and he had to do that. So don't back into a driveway and poke your pole through. And of course, that wouldn't have happened if he parked in the street as he should have done. And as I'm talking about leaking chemicals, another rookie mistake is to have a tote or a service cart and you don't have the lid on the muriatic acid correctly, and it drips onto the cement as you're walking to the pool. Had that happen to myself. I'm guilty of this. Fortunately, the house was super old. The cement was super old. The customer came out. They saw it. They're like, not a big deal. The cement's like, 40 years old. But this has happened to my group members on brand new pools. It's something that could happen. And it's really messy to fix. Sometimes you have to acid wash the entire driveway, or not driveway, but walkway to the pool. Sometimes you can power wash it and blend it in pretty good, but there's really not much you can do with these stains that are just on there, walking right to the pool, to the coping. So the best way to, of course, handle this is to not leak muriatic acid anywhere around the client's sidewalk, pool, and make sure they're secure. If you have employees, make sure that the acid is secure. One thing that I do is I don't know if it's a trick, but it's something that I do all the time, is that if I'm bringing muriatic acid back to a pool, after I pour it into the pool, I actually take the bottle and dip it in the pool, and then I'll put it back in my tote or put it in my service cart. By dipping it in the pool, you get all residue off of there, because if you put this acid down on the deck, this happens as well. I've seen these stains when I take over an account. There'll be like this little half moon shape, C-shaped stain on their deck. And that's from the gallon of acid the other pool company just set it on the deck after pouring it in the pool and leaving that little half moon burn on their deck, because the bottle has some residue and it leaked on there. So I always dip it in the pool, put it back in my tote. I always make sure that they're secure in my truck. There's no leaks in there. Sometimes a leak will happen. You get a leaker, but you want to make sure that you correct that right away and you don't have the acid potentially staining the customer's deck or coping. There's one member of the group that sent a picture. I should pull it up one of these days, but it was a brand new pool. It was beautiful back there. Huge amount of deck, and it was stamped concrete, again, which is bad if you stain it. But it was a beautiful pool with a huge amount of decking. And the thing of the story that I'm getting to that's funny is that the customer put those blue booties out there for him. And they said, every time you come to my pool, wear these blue booties around it. I don't want any staining or anything. So just imagine that customer if you were to drip some acid on there. So what he did, he left everything way back by the entry to the pool near the grass. He never took his stuff anywhere near the pool because he was like super paranoid of something dripping on it. So keep that in mind. And by the way, there are some tile soaps, the Biodex, the Biodex 300 tile soap. It has acid in it. Also, the Red Arrow soap has acid in it. Muriatic acid. I don't know if it's muriatic acid. I shouldn't say that, but there's an acid in there, and it can burn the pool deck if you spray some on there or drip some on there. So be careful of those products as well. You don't want to get the customer's deck stained. And these are all things that have happened to me using these acid tile soaps. So just be aware that you do have very similar staining effects as muriatic acid would have on a deck if you get that on there. I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but this is something that is preventable, and you have to be really cognizant of the chemicals we use and how they can stain the customer's property or deck. And I've even heard this story where a pool pro was putting trichlor tablets in a floater. He got distracted and busy, and then he left the account and left the tablet sitting there on the coping of the pool, and it so happened to be kind of misty and foggy, and over the course of a few days, it actually left a stain on the coping. So little things like that. And of course, I know of a commercial service account where the employee left a gallon of acid with the lid off on the deck, And of course, he was terminated for that. But that's a very hazardous thing with kids using that, and they could actually pour it out, or God forbid they drink from it. That's also hazardous. So all these things are avoidable if you're just conscious of everything that you're doing at the pool and conscious of the chemicals that can leave a stain. I'll end with this one here. I have a lot more here to cover, but this one's one that's good and you may find it amusing. But a rookie mistake would be falling into the pool. Now, I've only fallen into the pool 3 times. I've actually stepped into the step area a few times. I've almost fallen in more than several times. There's a lot of reasons why you would fall into a pool. The reasons that I fell in, I was careless. I was on a rock formation pool one time and I was trying to walk on one side to brush it. I lost my step, fell right into the pool. It does happen. And most of the falls into the pool are avoidable. Sometimes you're brushing and you lose your balance. I've heard guys using the dually tripole when the cam is kind of loosening. They actually were brushing and the cam loosened on them, and the momentum made them flip over and fall into the pool. That's happened as well. And sometimes you just lose your step. I've had this happen. I was distracted and I just lost my step and I stepped right into a spa. Fortunately, it was into the spa, but falling into the pool can happen. And a lot of this is avoidable. A lot of it happens on those pools, again, that have kind of tricky areas, the rock formations or things like that. But a lot of times you're just careless around the pool and not actually paying attention to where you're standing. So always be cognizant, as I mentioned earlier, about the chemical staining, but be cognizant of where you're actually standing at that pool. Each pool is a little different. You're going to go to like all these different pools all week long, and you can get careless out there. Falling in the pool is not like the end of the world unless it's like 60 degrees, and it's like not great, and your cell phone may get ruined, but it does happen. I guess it is almost a rite of initiation for the pool pro to fall into the pool. A lot of guys in my group will post a photo like, hey, I fell into the pool today, and they get like a lot of thumbs up and applause and likes in that, but it does happen. So try to avoid that the best you can. I wouldn't say it's anything unprofessional falling into the pool. I've had pool guys fall into the pool in front of customers. I unfortunately fell into a pool in front of all the landscapers and gardeners, and I'm sure they're still telling the story today about the pool guy that fell into the pool right in front of them. But hey, it happens, and it's something that was my fault. I just wasn't conscious of where I was walking. I think wearing boots are the best way to prevent it also. I used to wear tennis shoes, and I think a lot of the times I fell in the pool, I was actually wearing tennis shoes at that time. This is all prior to me wearing boots. So I just wear boots all the time, and there's many different brands of boots, but boots give you more traction, and I find that they're much more comfortable to work with out there in the pool route. They have higher ankle support, so you're not going to twist your ankle as much. And that's another thing that happens a lot. I've tripped on curbs, tripped in backyards, slipped in mud, but the boots are really good. They give you extra traction, and they give you that extra ankle support where maybe I would have broken my ankle or twisted it really badly. Since I'm wearing the boots that are really high up on my ankles, I haven't twisted or broken my ankle out there, thankfully. But of course, all this is being cognizant of where you're at the account. So don't put yourself on autopilot and really focus on your job and focus on what you're doing. And you can avoid a lot of mistakes just by being very focused on what you're doing out there. If you're looking for other podcasts, of course, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel where you get a new one Monday through Friday. And also, if you are interested in more podcasts, you can go to my website at swimmingpoollearning.com, and there's a podcast icon on the banner. You can listen to those at your leisure. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.